Access provided by PlayStation.
Hey everybody, Brandon Jones here. I got my friend, my dear friend, Michael Huber.
Hello.
Huber, you and I got a lot in common.
Yeah, we do.
I come to you for a lot of different things that I know you're going to be into. I know I disappoint you because I haven't seen things, some things I don't like that you like. But you and I both are cautiously optimistic about Days Gone.
Yes.
Not a game that everybody's talking about. I think the advertising is really going to ramp up because we're getting it in just weeks away. And I was fortunate enough to fly up to San Francisco thanks to Sony and checked out a healthy dose of Days Gone. I think I played this game for like a little over 5 hours.
Jeez.
It's like you want that much time with the game, but then like just any game, you hit that 5 hour mark like, okay, especially like open world game where you're just like, what am I gonna do now? All right, like got a little fatigued just in general, but really enjoyed my time. And I was not able to capture footage, so actually right now I don't know if you're going to be looking at trailers or if they're going to be sending me some B-roll, but so I'm not going to be able to show you specifically the gameplay that I played, but I had a jolly time, and I just want to focus on like 4 things that really stood out for me from the experience. One of the first ones, and you can go back, we're on a different stage, but you can go back to the last time we talked about Days Gone. And you also played it at that time, and frame rate was not good.
No.
A little nervous.
Very.
So much better.
Perfect.
This game runs really, really well. Especially one of the things that I was upset, when playing it previously was the bike is so smooth, especially when you're in the dirt, like you can really take curves at just a nice pace. And so it was nice that the game ran a lot smoothly, or a lot smoother than before. Still like a very lush forest environment, so there were some tree branches that would pop in as I'm driving around, but like did not really have any weird performance issues. Cool. And so that was great. It was like the first thing out of the gate was like, how is this game going to perform?
And visually not compromised to meet that performance.
It's a pretty open world game. I mean, it's the apocalypse, so like there's a lot of dirt piles and a lot of people living in some sad shacks and in tents with sleeping bags. But like it was a very fun world to explore. We'll get to that in a second. And I do recognize that this is a preview, and we do have weeks before this game comes out. But technically, I wouldn't say technically, kind of design-wise, and it feels bad to start criticizing this stuff, but there were a couple of things that stood out as I wish were a little bit better. Okay. The blood splatters is not terrific.
Oh, no.
It's kind of just a general, like just not. And granted, it's just horrible to go directly from Resident Evil 2 right into Days Gone. And like RE2 just has that just absolutely exquisite gory detail, but it's not open world. You also are not going to have, 40 of these things rushing you in Resident Evil 2. Totally. So it's kind of, it's size, quantity over quality, in a sense of just how they want to portray this world. But there's just something about shooting these things. There's just something about the way it feels when a bullet hits something in this game that just doesn't quite have that oomph.
How about the melee? Like when a lot of melee I've seen in the footage, spiked bats and stuff.
Didn't really get into that. I was mostly doing weapons the whole time. Yeah. Okay. So apologies if I didn't really get into that, but and that also gets into the fact that I thought resources are going to be a lot more scarce, which I didn't discover, but it kind of plays into how the game functions. There are nests that you can clear out, and in certain areas there might be like 3 or 4 of them, and once you clear all the nests out, then you get that spot as a fast travel point. Okay. So you have to clear it, and I love that just design-wise. I think that's fun, and especially when it's the apocalypse, especially when it's zombies, I love the idea of like clearing a zone. It's like I've gone in there, I've done the work, I can go there safely now, I've made it safe for other people, feels good.
Does it become a camp, or just like you can fast travel?
I think it's just a fast travel point. Okay. I actually didn't fast travel anywhere. Like the next thing I wanted to do, or an available activity was usually pretty close. Okay. So I didn't really take advantage of that, which kind of speaks to not necessarily how big the game is, but how much is going on. That at no point was I like, well, I'm not going to drive all the way over there. I was like, oh, that'd be great. I love this bike. I love riding around.
What really excites me about Days Gone is the idea of survival, and they've kind of, they've touched on that and getting gas and everything. Does fast travel take away from that, Jones? Like, if you're able to just kind of fast travel, are there benefits for not fast traveling, or does it cost a resource to fast travel there or anything?
I never did it. Okay. I don't know. Yeah. And we'll get into that in a second. Just kind of like what resources mean when you're actually leaving a camp, like kind of your mindset of like what you're going to do. Cool. There were some NPCs shuffling around. Like there was a little bit, I'd walk into zones and a guy would like, whoop, and I'm like, oh, like, so there's just, little, it's an open world game. Little shadows would kind of flicker, you know how shadows can sometimes. There was one time, I don't know if I was like loading a new mission or something like that, but like time of day just like was flying across an area I looked at, like you could see the sun line. Like,
dude,
whoa,
I like that, dude. It's cool.
And some of the facial animation is rough. There was a guy that was the same character model that I would rescue. So you'd be driving around, you hear help, and like he's trapped in a car, and all the zombies around him. And I like finally freed him, and he was like, "Thanks for rescuing me." And I'm like, "Whoa, man! Like it's not quite the the detail that we've seen in some other open world games."
Got it.
All of that negative junk out of the way.
Beautiful.
I'm so excited for this game. I'm so excited to spend time with it, and it was tough to kind of tear myself away because I had tons of time because I flew up to SF. So I'm just like, I mean, I don't have to be at the airport for another 2 hours. So even if I think I've got my fill, I should really spend time and get through this. And so I've talked about some of the hiccups in the world, but I want to talk about just exploring that world and what that's like. Your attachment to your bike.
Yeah.
It's very fascinating.
Hyped on this.
I didn't really get in a lot of trouble when I would leave the bike somewhere and then go somewhere else. So I don't know if like zombies can just discover your bike or if there might be like patrols going by and they might just find your bike and do nasty things to it. I don't know if there's a way to like hide your bike. He does so in a cutscene, but like I don't know if later in the game you get a chance to do that. Like I know you can booby trap other people's bikes.
Sweet.
So if you get in and you're stealthing, you can just boop boop boop, and then if you like steal something and run away, they all go to their bikes and all the bikes blow up.
Awesome.
My favorite bike moment, and I think I already spoiled this for you already, but I was driving and I got hit by a sniper. And it's cool because you can see the laser right away. So you do have a couple seconds to like, whoa, hit a brake or like try to get behind a tree and then leave your bike there and go and take the sniper out, depending on what weapons you have. But I got hit by the sniper, flew off the bike kept going, and then I took out everyone at this little stop when they had shot me. And I'm heading back to the bike, and I see this guy. I'm like, what is that guy doing? And he's just messing with the bike. And I come up and he doesn't see me, so I just walk up behind him and pop him in the head, get back on my bike, and it's at 6% damage out of 100. So I just have to like putt this thing back.
Yeah.
And then it happened to me in the preview, but there was nobody around. So it was crazy actually seeing this guy do this. So the next time that happened to me and my bike went flying, I just immediately was like, gotta get to that bike so nobody messes around with it. And I think that's really interesting. Not only that you have this attachment to the bike, but like I don't remember Mad Max having anything like that, where like people could potentially mess around with your bike. I remember there kind of being a danger in Mad Max when I would be by myself. So like if cars saw me and I was outside of my vehicle, they're like, go get them, and they would just come bum rush me. But so it'd be interesting to see how difficult the game gets when you're off your bike. Totally. There was definitely one time where like I had kind of like a race where like I was coming down a hill toward my bike and a huge crowd of zombies was running up. Yeah. And so I like get on my bike and then I like ran one of them over.
Stuff like that.
Away.
Stuff like that is like excites me, Jones, and I really hope they lean into that survival nature of it,
Yeah, you really start from scratch. I'm not going to get into plot details why, but like you definitely start almost with nothing and then have to like build this bike up. So I wonder if later there's a lot of like road rash kind of like you get to melee them from the bike.
Again, it's hard to tell because you only played for 5 hours and kind of came in, but in that 5 hours, were you struggling for resources? Were you like doing these challenges and they were difficult and then you would get resources and you'd be able to kind of breathe, or was it just open world kind of going through the motions like, okay, let me do this, let me do this?
So here's how resources work.
Yeah.
So I went into this thing, expecting to just pick up absolutely everything I could find because I would desperately need it. And I don't know if they gave us a lot of credits going into the game, but that's kind of not how the game works. So if you are picking up supplies in the field, you might find a new gun or something like that. There might be like something you can unlock, like if you go to a fort or a hideout or something. There might be like a little prize waiting for you there, but if you go back to, or at least in my experience in the preview, if you go back to a base, you can pretty much, every time I went back, I could replenish everything. I could refill my bike, I could repair it to 100%, I could refill all of the ammo for every gun that I had. And granted, as you level up, and I'll get to that in a second, you unlock access to better weapons. So I think by the end of 5 hours, I only had like 4.
Got it.
And so it's not so much that like, it's not like Resident Evil where it's like, oh man, I only have like 5 shotguns left.
Yeah.
It's that when you are all filled up and you head out into the world, it's kind of this risk reward of like, how long do I want to stay in this world before I decide, okay, I'm gonna wrap things up and head back. And So that was kind of the danger, was that like the further you drive, especially going off the road. And I didn't realize that until like the 4-hour mark, because little question marks would pop up and I'd be like, screw that, man, I'm gonna go and finish the mission. And then later on, I'm like, well, I should probably go do one of these. Yeah. And it felt really risky because some of those, there are no roads going up there, and you can take the bike up, but sometimes, one time specifically, I just left the bike and was like on foot running up the hill, and I'm like, that feels bad to leave my bike there. Yeah. Feels bad. You can also store a little bit of ammo on your bike. So I'm like, this is just me and what I have on me and my weapons. So, and I don't even know what I'm getting into, you know.
So I wonder if like the fast travel points you go to, maybe you can't refill there. So like
maybe
what was like you said you refilled a base, was it always the same one, or were there kind of bases scattered around?
There were two. By the end of it, I had two major established bases. Both had totally different attitudes. Cool. One was the one that you've seen a lot in gameplay, where you go and the mechanics there, and another one was run by this lady who's like very no nonsense. It was fun. At one point I rescued a character and brought them back to base, and he says, "Hey, I think this character's had a rough time. Maybe go easy on her because it's a work camp." And a lot of people complain. They're like, "You work us so hard," but it's like, it's the apocalypse. We have to survive, and you have to earn your keep. Like, we'll feed you, we'll give you resources, but like, there's no currency anymore, really. And so like, you work hard, you know, you get quote unquote payment for that. And so Deacon tells her like, "Hey, you know, take it easy on this person." And she's been pretty motherly and kind up at that point. And she's like, "Don't you tell me how to run my camp." And I was like, yes. Like, I hope that all of these different camps feel distinct, so that when I, you know, level up with them individually, I hope there's like a story arc. Maybe I get to know characters better.
Yeah, or like there's different people at each one. That's
possibly cool. One of them dies or something, or I put in a compromising position, or I'm sent on a quest to finish something that really means something to them. And there's a lot of also of them just calling you on the radio and saying, you know, "Oh, something popped up last minute, and could you go do this quest?"
What was the furthest you went away from a camp? Like, far away, or were you always kind of within?
I mean, there's just roads everywhere, so it didn't feel, everything just kind of winds around to everything else. Okay. Like, there was no point where there was like a dead end and then I had to get back. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm wondering if that's really end game stuff. Where the other thing too is the E3 demo that I played. I revisited some of those segments of the game, but those were segmented. There were 3 different demos that they had at E3, and one of them was the giant pit where they're like, "We give you like the best weapons in the game. Yeah. You have like 200 of these things, and you have to clear them out." Didn't get anywhere close to that. But what I did get to at one point, which is pretty freaky because more of these things come out at night, it is kind of scary, like searching around and then being like, you hear them. I was like, where is that? And I get to the edge and look down. I'm just like, okay, like I need to get to where they are right now, but I'm just gonna let them all, make their way over. And there's just 30 of these things just kind of wandering around. Even if you get like you're herding cows, even if you get just one straggler wandering off, if that thing sees you and rushes you. And stealth was pretty easy. There were a couple times I was like, and he was like 10 feet away, and I'm like, oh, he doesn't see me. Okay. So like it is a little gracious, because I think when the House of Cards comes down, it's just like, that's when it really gets crazy. So as long as you're cognizant of it and careful, you can get away from these things. But there were definite times where I was like on the bike and like would turn a corner and be like, nope, or like turn around and head the other way.
That's so awesome.
There's little hops. I don't remember that so much when I did the preview, but there's like, you'll be going along the road and there'll be like a little rock off to the side where you're like, oh, whoop, and you can hop over it. So like, there's fun little moments where you can get little platforming jollies out of like riding your bike around. And one thing the tooltip said that I thought was really cool is gas goes away quick. And again, I can get from point A to point B and back, and it's fine with gas. But again, if you want, oh, well, I'm right next to that other spot, like the further you go, and you can get gas at little canisters and fill your bike up. But who knows? Maybe the gas might not be there. Maybe there were a couple times where I was like, gas, oh, there it is. So again, it's just, I kind of like that, in that like it's up to you how risky you want to make this experience. If you really want to play it safe, keep going back, but then again, that's draining your money to keep refilling it instead of finding that stuff out in the wild. Yeah. And I also like it too from a resource gathering perspective, because there's common places where you'll find objects. Obviously, people drop weapons and ammo and stuff like that when you shoot them. Cop cars will have ammo and weapons inside of them. But at the same time, like, I don't want to search every last thing. And so it was kind of nice being like, I'm just going to replenish myself. Oh, look, I'm full. Okay, great. And then I would go into a zone and a bunch of stuff would be highlighted and be like, I have all this. I don't need to obsess over, especially an open world game where it's just like, man, I'm checking every single box, every single house.
Good point.
It can kind of get tiring.
For sure.
So I think that's one aspect for people that are like, oh, I really like survival games and I want that resource management. It is there. It's just a question of like how far you're willing to risk. And there's bad weather. Rains a lot. and rain will make the map muddy, so you slide a little bit more, but it increases stealth and it decreases visibility of both the zombies and bad guys. So like you're quieter, they won't see you from, they'll see you only see you from closer distances.
Yeah.
So it's kind of fun when it starts raining. You're like, oh, maybe I'll change what I'm doing and do some more stealth stuff.
That's really cool.
There was a tooltip that popped up that reminded me to, if you're coasting, so if you go on a hill and you're going downhill, don't hit the gas. Just let it boom, 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 coast, and you save gas.
Nice.
It's like, oh, that's neat. So like, I wonder if
Micromanage
you'll get
that.
better. And there is backtracking in this. Again, when I zoomed out and looked at the map, although he kept saying, I got to fix up this bike so we can head north. So I wonder if there's more maps. I didn't interview the team, so I didn't ask. But when I looked at the map, I was like, that map isn't huge. I wonder if there's tougher areas when we get to. There are, again, places that I've seen in trailers and preview videos that I did not find.
That's my dream for this game,
in my
Jones, is like the journey.
Yeah.
I want to go on the journey. I want to be like, this is all I have.
Yeah.
Let me go. I got to get really far away and deal with the elements and the freakers and the bandits. Like that's
so I did like the world. I kept on the road. There were a lot of instances where like there'll be a roadblock and you have to like go off the side. But the way they talked about the world, one of the things I think I'm so excited about this game is I just love playing capable people. I love playing heroes that are going out into a very dangerous world full of people who do not have the confidence that they do, and they're just like, I'm gonna go out and do what a lot of people aren't capable of doing.
Yeah.
And that brings me to the story. And there were some beats that I guess I didn't really pay attention to, maybe if they had mentioned them before in trailers, but that kind of surprised me. I'll jump to this one. You're a bounty hunter, which I didn't really think about. And that's like actually the first thing that I did was like, let's go get this guy.
Yeah.
We hunt him down, kill him, take his like bloody hat as like a trophy to show the people that we got him. And I think that's kind of interesting that like you would think, it's like, what's the point in the apocalypse? Like, can't we all be on the same team? Like, it just feels so weird to like go and clear out a camp because of just some jerk that pissed somebody else off.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it adds kind of an edge to it, and it makes Deacon kind of more believable to me that like, yeah, that's what he does. He is capable of doing this. Like he is kind of that guy that you hire when you need the dirty work done.
Yeah.
And so it makes sense that this guy who's on a motorcycle, knows weapons, you would probably fare pretty well in the zombie apocalypse, and maybe even better than some of his friends who don't necessarily like go out on all the hunts.
Was the bounty he took care of like a villain, or was it a morally gray character, or was it an innocent?
They definitely set you up to hate that guy when you do it right away. But yeah, I wonder, maybe later on, maybe there's some guy, because I got a little touchy with me in that one camp leader. I wonder if there's some missions where he's like, I don't feel the need to do this necessarily.
Yeah.
Or if you're just like, hey, if you're on my list, I don't care,
Yeah.
Nero is basically the umbrella of this world.
Okay.
It's kind of like the lab techs that are going around and like trying to like capture these zombies and study stuff. And
dude, I didn't even know that was an element.
And it's neat because and I think this is interesting. And I'm curious if this is going to pay off in the story. But
dude,
like
Nero Lab, let's go.
Deacon has a couple screws loose. And that's interesting. And you have, I don't know if you remember your tattooed friend from the preview who's got the tattoos on his bald head. But there were a couple moments where Deacon's like, okay, I'm going to go follow Nero. And your friend's like, why? Stop. What are you doing? Like, what's the point?
Yeah.
Go do the mission that you're on. And it's clear like Deacon's got an axe to grind. Like he's really curious about what caused this.
Yeah.
What is this company doing? Which brings me to Sarah, who's his wife, who he loses in the prologue. And she is much more of a presence in this. There's lots of flashbacks, and that also has ties to Nero. And there's a specific spot where, I don't remember his name, but your friend is like, okay, when we get around this area, you get a little touchy because Sarah was here, and Deacon's like, you don't know what you're talking about. So there's like a little bit of tension there, and it's fun because you can kind of, you get to these points where Deacon's like, oh yeah, I remember Sarah said this, or there's one point it like went to a full-blown flashback. Yeah. And so it's interesting, and the story is divided up into arcs. So when I would finish a Sarah section, it would be like, you're now 14% through that Sarah arc.
Got it.
And so it's interesting kind of where that's going to go, and if that's just its own thing that you can decide to do, or if that ties into the bigger picture.
Yeah.
And so I like that not only obviously can you make decisions because it's an open world game on what parts of the story you want to focus on, if you can actually make those decisions that like, no, I really, really care about this Sarah thing. I really want to, anytime those open up, I'm really curious to learn more about that.
Yeah, I like that they're honing in on, it sounds like they're really honing in on the character, which is a smart thing to do. you know, easy to write off. Oh, it's just another zombie apocalypse game. But, you know, the thing with his wife, and he clearly has, like you said, an axe to grind. And then you factor in all the bandits and then this Nero company. It seems like there's a lot of layers to kind of get invested in.
Hopefully. Yeah. I mean, just in those couple of hours, and hopefully, they definitely pay off. Deegan's an interesting character. He talks a lot, and it reminded me of Aloy, and that was actually one of the only things that I didn't like about Aloy's characterization in Horizon, was that whenever she talked to herself, it was very loud, and she repeated a lot of things, and she was very, like, serious about seemingly innocuous things. Like the 500th time I picked up this herb, she's like, oh, thanks, we got this herb. And it's like, just calm down, Aloy. And I really liked his VO to himself. He would kind of mumble. Like, he would just, like, every time he talked to himself, it was really low tones, and unless he was, like, angry at somebody, if there's like one guy left that you're trying to chase down, he'll talk smack like as you're hunting them. But there's just a lot of moments where he would, you know, almost kind of like when Arthur will sing to himself in Red Dead. He's just like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll need that, thanks. And it was like, cool. I had headphones on, so I'm like, maybe that was a lot more audible than it would be if you're just using like surround sound or your TV speakers. But I did not get sick of him in 4 hours, and I think that's for a character who talks to himself, and he repeated some things, but I like that characterization. Cool. And I like that the whole concept of value is a big deal in the story. People talk about it constantly. Like, what are we going towards? How do these camps run? How many resources do we have? When they talk about gas, it's very much. I think there's like one time I repaired my bike, and the mechanic at the camp was like, "Hey, you're full of gas. I mean, until we run out of it all." And I was like, whoa, dude. You know, because it's like, think about it, in that world, they're like, we can't mine anymore, you know? We can't, like, this is a finite resource. And we're kind of living in this heyday, even though things are really hard, where we actually can get on these motorized vehicles and travel. And so let's like take advantage while we can. But you definitely get this vibe that like resources are dwindling. In the tutorial early missions, you get a shotgun right away because your friend gives it to you. Excellent. And then you drop him off at a place, and Deacon's like, oh, I'm gonna go check some stuff out, and he's like, give me my shotgun. And you're like, oh, wait. And so you get, but I like that in the beginning of the game. It teaches you to respect these weapons, and I thought that was interesting.
That's so amazing.
So yeah, I kind of appreciate that tone. I hope that carries through the whole thing. So let's talk about more about like just wandering around the world. So R3, you have a like there was another game I just played that had the same thing, but has like a resource ping. Might have been Tomb Raider, I can't remember, where like you can level up the distance and how long items stay on screen. One thing that survival games do, that games like this do, that frustrates me is if I am full of something, don't highlight it for me, because I physically can't pick it up. So like, why do I even, if I can see like 20 triangles and none of those I can actually pick up, like that's not really, you know, worthwhile. But it has that in case that irks you. Some people are like, oh, I hate that, I want to search for those things. But like me, I like it. I like when I can just like see the environment. You pick up plants. You can do a little bit of crafting, but resources, there are also animals in the world, of wolves and bears and stuff. There's one bear. There's a mission that like made me attack a bear. You got Molotovs, like hurts. And but you get that meat, you get those skins, and then you can sell them at camps. And when you sell resources to camps, you get credits. And the more missions you do for camps, your trust goes up, which lowers the cost of things. But you don't have money, you have credits within each camp.
Got it.
And so I don't know if those credits like carry over between camps, or if you like run out of credits at a camp and you're like, oh, I need to fill my bike. I gotta drive over to this other camp because they still like me, or like I don't know if there's a way to like lose trust, or didn't really get to experiment a lot with those systems. But like I said, like there definitely seems to be kind of an emotional core to some of these camps. They definitely have leaders that identify them. There's a definite like, you know, vibe at each of these camps. So I'd love to see that. I'd love to, if there was like one point in the story where a camp's like, you're not welcome here anymore, and like, whoa, you know, like, okay, now I'm stuck, or I can't get in that area. I think that would be really interesting.
And it was there's just one difficulty, that it was the stock one you played on, where there were options,
multiple difficulties. I think it defaulted to easy actually, and I don't know if that was just them setting up the PS4s, and I played on PS4 Pro, I'm assuming. I played on a PlayStation 4 controller. Yeah, so I noticed that like 3 hours in, and I was like, well, I'll just stay the course. You know,
so there was easy and normal when.
I don't know if there's anything more difficult than that. I just noticed when I was going through the options, I was like, oh, it's actually set to easy. So I'm assuming there's others. One time I saw a gang shooting, like an enemy gang shooting zombies, and I had nothing to do with it. I just heard gunfire. I was like, what? And I like looked over a cliff and was like, yeah, sucks to be you guys. And so that does happen. And one thing that they showed in earlier previews was that, like, I don't know if you remember him like shooting or throwing the grenade and the wall comes down and they all come bum rushing camp. Didn't get to do stuff like that.
Okay.
One time you have rocks that you can use to confuse enemies, but it's more of kind of like an about face. They won't travel too far over to it. And I spent way too much time on one camp. I kept trying to bait this zombie, like, get in there, and he just kept like noticing the rock, and then he would go back to his spot.
Oh.
So I did get to experiment a lot with that. I don't know if there's some weapons or abilities you get later on that make that easier, or obviously setups where you can tell, like maybe there's a character next to you that's like, hey, point something out that I can use, but didn't really get into that. And finally, we talked a little bit about this, but the economy in these camps, how that works.
Yes.
And I think it's interesting that there's no currency, that you can go and buy stuff. But at each camp, there's a kitchen where you turn in your meat and plants. There's the mechanic where you can use to upgrade, repair your bike. Bounties, which I didn't get into because I had plenty of quests, but I think that's kind of late game. If you want to level up a little bit more, you could, if you're like, okay, especially if there's like other maps, if it's like, it's time to go north, you're
so
like,
this game
all right,
could potentially be huge.
Yeah. And it was weird to look at the map at the end of it because there's just a bunch of circles because I kept mostly to the roads.
Yeah.
And so it were these roads that kind of encircled this giant blank area. Then I'm like, oh, okay, I just got to head up that mountain and see what's there. And so I don't know if things get more difficult there or if they could possibly put you in compromising positions. The one time I did, it was just like another camp where, again, you could, if you're really good, you can go in and stealth and take everybody out. But then if you get spotted, not only if you get spotted, do people bring out heavy weapons, but like other bikers will rush in, like other people will get a signal from elsewhere and help reinforce people.
Sounds like it could be a pretty good challenge.
Yeah, and it was fun. Like I said, you're a bounty hunter, and so it was neat that not only was I going and taking somebody out, they described him to me before I got there. They're like, he's got this red hat, you can't miss it. And so it was neat going in and like hearing the people in the camp talk to each other, and I was definitely like, you're the guy. It's that guy right there, And when
That's some good stuff.
Or I would like start shooting, and they would be like, "He's here for what's his name?" Or like that guy would have a particular personality and would be like yelling at me as we're behind cover shooting. At
Stuff
each other.
like that really pulls you into the open world when you're not just going from menu to waypoint to waypoint. When you have to actually kind of survey your surroundings and get in it and like listen to the conversations. Were there other moments like that or?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have like a ton of friends.
Yeah.
But there definitely are character studies. Like there definitely are personalities. Like I would meet people and get a sense of like, oh, okay, I get their vibe. I get why Deacon's mad at them. I get why Deacon doesn't trust this guy. It's interesting when you go into the camp that you saw a lot from the previews. The mission I did was when like I first, not meet that guy, but when I show up, the guard at the front of the gate's like, well, I don't know him. Yeah. And then the guy who runs the camp's like, wait, no, I know Deacon. He comes in and Deacon's like, hey, I need this thing. And he's like, oh, you need something from me, don't you? Well, there's something we can do about that. You can do something for me. And Deacon's like, damn it. So like, it's interesting to get kind of Deacon's sense of like the responsibilities he has in this world and how, again, everyone uses him because he's so capable, because he's so confident in going out into the world. That one character that I rescued and brought back to the camp, and kind of like told the leader how to deal with them. Like she was an interesting case study, like finding her in her natural environment and imagining kind of what happened and how she got to this point. And it's interesting because it's called Days Gone and it counts down the days. It was fun at the end when I left the preview event because a lot of people had already left, but their pause screens were all up. And so it was fun looking by. It's like 174, 281, it was like all the numbers were slightly different. And so I like the idea that it's got that Last of Us vibe where like you get a little bit of a sense, these flashbacks of kind of what happened when everything went down, but this is so much far past that. Yeah. This is like half a year after that. And so it's not really the society being like zombies, right? It's more like what do we do with the food that we have? Yeah. Can we actually set up these camps? Can camps get along? Can we trust anybody? Every time they open the gate, you get a sense of like I could just run in and start shooting everybody. Like that kind of the tenuous relationships in this world. It's like I think one of the biggest things I'm hoping they explore. Like I said, I hope like some camp just has it with me, or I hope maybe like you're gone. You make decisions one camp versus the other. One thing that they did that I thought was cool is when you rescue people, you can send them to either camp, increasing their trust. And I wonder if maybe that backfires at some point. Maybe you meet somebody that's not nice and you're like, hey, I got it. Why don't you go to that camp? Or like you can maybe play with that, or there's other opportunities for you to maybe send resources to those camps. So you can definitely play favorites. You can definitely choose what camps you want to focus on. Also, again, they have the bounties too, because you can choose if you're like, okay, I'm so close to trust level 3. Let me just do some bounties for this camp right now before I move on with the story. And finally, within camps, there's a bunk. It's where you save your progress. Nice. You can also quick save on your bike. But because I was at a preview event, and because they did have auto saves, like I didn't save that much. I just tried to be pretty careful. There was only one time I got completely wiped out, and it was great. There was a camp that was really high up, and I'm like, how do I get up there? And there was a bridge within the camp that crossed over this canyon, and the way to get up to the camp was on this like dirt road off to the left. But I was like, oh, I just go through this canyon. And there are bear traps, and you can pick up the bear trap and then drop it or carry it to somewhere else and set it up. Yeah. And so I go running toward me, and I was like, "Ooh, bear traps! Got to go right past these. Like, you know, like be careful." And I'm like, "Haha, you almost got me with those bear traps." Took 2 more steps towards this canyon, and then like 20 zombies just came bum rushing at me. And I'm pretty early in the game. I only got like 6 rounds on my shotgun. Again, resources. Like, I can go back and fill up all my resources, but at this moment, I didn't have a lot on me. And what I had was mostly with the pistol, and I just don't have a lot of my gun supply is not that impressive right now. And I got 20 of these things rushing at me. And so I was like, oh no, turn around and go right into the bear trap. So it traps my leg, and I'm like, square, get it out. And that's when I like ran back to the bike and took off like almost as they grabbed me. So it's fun. Awesome. Like I did kind of lull myself into a feeling of security with this game, and then realize, okay, so I hope that really happens later on, especially the later parts of the game where it's just like drop of a hat, you could just find yourself in a very compromising position.
There's been a lot of hopes from us for this preview, 4 Days Gone. Where are you at, Jones? Do you think that it can deliver? Do you think, from what you have played, from what you have seen, are you more confident or less confident?
I think I'm at the same level. Okay. I think this preview just kind of settled in for me. I think my expectations might have dipped a little bit just with performance. Again, just when you hit that trigger and the bullet goes and hits something, it's like it just kind of doesn't have that impact. Like right now I'm playing 2016's Doom, and just like, man, when you go, like and Red Dead, and like I've played a lot of really high powered gun games. Even like Anthem, which I'm playing right now, just has like so much oomph to the weapons. And it's like, for example, like if you I think it's like 2 or 3 bullets will take down a zombie with the pistol, and I can shoot all of them in the toe, and it's the same damage. Like maybe like headshots do a little bit more, but I just don't get, like, it's when you shoot zombies, they don't kind of stagger in that direction. And again, RE2 spoiled me straight up, and so this is just not that type of game. Like this is something where size matters. Like you got to worry about hordes, you got to worry about just situational awareness. I remember like the first time I fast traveled somewhere in Red Dead and put down the controller and a bear just took me out. Like I hope this game does that a lot. I hope it's like you got to pause this game and not, this open world to surprise you. Didn't get to crazy zombie bear. It was just a normal bear. So I hope there's some pretty crazy, challenges that you get later in the game. But what really intrigued me, I think, is the story was a lot more involved. Like I said, I love that Deacon's, as I imagine most people would be in this situation, is having some problems emotionally. He's not 100% grounded. Like he does have some issues to work through. He does put himself into dangerous positions where you definitely feel in the voice acting when they're like, hey, go out and get this thing and come back. You're like, okay, because a lot of these people like aren't warriors. They're like, I'm so much better at running this camp than I would be at, riding a bike or using these weapons. And so, when you go do these really long, A to B to C to D missions, you can definitely get a sense of like the worry and from people. And so I hope it does have that kind of emotional strain, especially going long term and building up these relationships with people, possibly having to make tough decisions. Really working up, hopefully, some of these antagonists. Like it'd be interesting if you meet, I didn't really have any characters from Nero established. It'd be fun if there's like a Wesker to go after, or if you meet maybe a lab technician that like tries to explain what Nero's trying to do, and so you're like, do I trust this person?
Jones, because I hadn't heard anything about Days Gone for quite a while, probably since that last preview. So I kind of was like neutral. I've been neutral for a long time now. You got me way hyped. I am ready.
I think it's and again, it reminds me of Mad Max. Like Mad Max was not, it's kind of the same thing with the guns. Like the melee was okay, and the guns were great, but It was really the resource management. It was really, you know, driving. Well, what's that over there? You know, and pull up and then hop out, check it out, get back in the vehicle and go and
finding bunkers in the sand.
And to me, that's just like my favorite thing. It's just like whenever I like go up to like the side of a gate and they're like, oh, he's gonna leave, and they would open up the gate and I would just head back out into the world. It just always felt great, and that bike feels so good. When you jump, you gotta land it like on both tires, because if you land it funky, you'll take a lot of damage. Even if you just like scrape a tree, like 5 to 10% gone. And so, so yeah, there definitely is a strain, even though you can replenish so much at these bases. And I don't know, again, I was playing on easy, so I don't know if that affected how much money I made, but like it'd be interesting if in the long term, if like, oh, I'm spending money willy-nilly at the beginning, and then later on, like, oh no, there goes all the money because I don't have any more missions for this camp. And
I hope this game has like 9 difficulties. Like let everyone play this game how they kind of want to play it, and kind of tailor it to like, go through easy and it's still stressful, but you can get through it, or like, all right, you want a challenge, like no resources, you know. So I hope you can kind of fine tune that.
So I think that's like the major joy for me, is just encountering these areas, whether it's a camp or a nest that you have to clear out. Because when you clear out these nests, you like throw a Molotov in, and then zombies just come running out of it at you. And so it's fun to like, okay, I got my resources. All right, let's do this thing, and then get back on the bike, either go back to a camp or move on to the next objective. I love that. I really dig it, and I'm hoping that while it won't necessarily be as like bleeding edge at a lot of great action games we've seen this gen, I hope that how much you love that bike, how into Deacon's character you are, how you can really understand, you know, emotionally what it takes to be a character like this, and try to like be haunted by his past while still trying to be optimistic about the future, and just kind of no nonsense, man. Like he is the protagonist, but like he is still a bounty hunter and just will savagely take people out. He doesn't care. And even though like you do set up partnerships, he is kind of lone wolf. He's just on his own. And so I just love that. I love being this blank slate and just kind of meeting all these different characters in the world. Again, I only saw 2 camps. I don't know other camps that are in the game, but yeah, I was sold on this the first time I saw it. I'm like, open world motorcycle zombies, yes. And yeah, I definitely enjoyed. It was interesting because after 5, here's my last thing I'll say about Days Gone. After 5 hours in the game, I had traveled earlier that morning, had a little bit of a headache. The TV was like slightly raised up, so I'm in like a low chair looking up. And so like at the end of 5 hours, I was like, oh, okay, whoa, it's like a dark room. I'm like, all right, I'm ready to stop playing this game. And then I got home, and I think I was cutting the podcast that night.
I want to play more.
It was like 1 in the morning, and I finally exported the podcast, and I had the moment for like half a second where I was like, let me play more Days Gone. Wait, I don't have that game. And I was like, there you go. That's a good vibe. That it's like, I'm, you know, this is something that, you know, I'm probably going to end up reviewing it, so I'll have to rush through it as quickly as I can. But like, I think this will be a good game that you can just play in little spurts, just decide, okay, if I'm leaving this camp, what do I want to do? How many risks do I want to take? And where's this character going? Where's the story going? I'm really curious. It's emotional. There's a lot of, he definitely has, you know, demons that he's got to deal with. So we'll see where it goes. And you know, thank you for your enthusiasm.
So pumped.
Thank you for watching. Later.
Even though I know you tell me to.
Access provided by PlayStation.